Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now today, once again, we're talking about ships that are going to be available during the anniversary sale. Now tentatively, the dates for the anniversary sale this year appear to be November the 24th until December the 4th, though as of the recording of this video, that's all I know about it, and I have been looking, but so far that is all I have seen. But today we're going to talk about another ship, specifically the Super Hornet. Now, the Super Hornet isn't a ship that you probably hear discussed a lot these days because it really has been out for a long, long time. This isn't a ship that... This isn't a ship that, is off on the horizon somewhere. This is a ship that is here now, flyable now. It's already gotten, in fact, its update and its cockpit update, which is coming in 3.0, is already done. This is one of the baseline earliest ships that was available in Star Citizen, and when you purchase it, you have it. Here it is. This isn't, a bunch of JPEGs. This is something that is here now, playable now. Now, originally, one of the advantages of the Super Hornet under the old stat sheet system where we went to find out all the info and compare the different ships, the standard Hornet, which runs about $110, had a size 3 power core, whereas the Super Hornet had a size 4. As well, the Super Hornet had, the second seat and the top turret already installed. Now, since then, we've moved to the new stat system where both Hornets simply have a small power core. But one of the things that they always told us about the Super Hornet was that it was mil-spec. Now, broadly what that meant was that unlike most Hornets that you would buy, these were F7Cs, the civilian model, or the civilian refurbishment of a military Hornet. This was a ship that was more or less fresh out of the military with many of its military-grade components still intact and part of the ship. Now, in the end, what does that mean for you as the end user? Well, it's hard to tell. People have gone on the forums and debated this endlessly and, frankly, pointlessly. Because, some people have said, oh, it's like an RPG, where you get like basic white grade components on your character and then you upgrade to greens and then blues and then purples for epics and a lot of, yada, yada, yada. But the problem is that none of these higher grade components have ever really appeared or been fleshed out in the game yet. So we don't know what the comparisons are. We don't know how great the gulf between, let's say, a baseline Badger repeater and a military grade Badger repeater or an epic grade Badger repeater is going to be, if there even is going to be such a thing. We don't know yet. And of course, that has been the subject of much debate on the spectrum, on the forums, so on and so forth. But what does it really mean? How does that affect you? It doesn't. So what's the point of saying it's mil-spec? Well, it's a cool sounding military term that ultimately means nothing. It means absolutely nothing, because until we have the components and we know what they do, it's really meaningless. And even if you got this ship and it was like, oh, these are 15% better components than you would get on an ordinary Hornet, are you telling me that you're just never going to upgrade those components beyond that? I mean, how long are you going to keep your Super Hornet baseline? How long before you upgrade guns or upgrade coolers? Probably almost immediately. So it's saying it's mil-spec and it's got military-grade components. Like, who gives a shit? Because you're probably going to replace them within a week anyways, and you're never going to look back at them again. So who cares? What's important? Let's get down to brass tacks. What's important about the Super Hornet is it is a kick-ass fighter. It has always been a kick-ass fighter. Since the beginning, it has always performed well. It may not be the fastest, it may not be the most maneuverable, but it's tough, it's durable. When you want to go out and you just want to make some quick UEC or you just want to blow shit up, the Super Hornet is always a safe bet. It's never been a terrible fighter. There are different fighters in the Star Citizen universe that you can pick apart and you can look at and say, oh, this could be better, or that could be this or that. The Super Hornet is just fine, especially if you're a mouse and keyboard player. The Super Hornet is an amazing ship. It's an excellent ship, and it's reliable. It's a safe bet. The Super Hornet and the Hornet family altogether have never been shitty ships. They've always been good. Now, one of the great things about the Hornet family, not just the Super Hornet, is the interchangeability of the components within the family. Let's say you want to command a squadron of fighters and you want to use the radar from the Hornet tracker on your Super Hornet, but you want the guy in the back seat on your Super Hornet to kind of operate the radar and direct the fighters while you're fighting. You can do that. That radar drops right in to the Super Hornet. Good to go. I mean, all of the Hornet family, all their components swap to the other members of that family. Like even the GOAT. All of the stealth components, or pretty much all of the stealth components that go onto the Ghost fighter, or the Ghost version of the Hornet, fit on the Super Hornet. You can just transpose them. Now the stealth coating itself has never been implicitly stated, or the stealth void armor, whatever the name for it is. To my knowledge, that's never been implicitly stated, but I think it would probably be a pretty safe bet that you could put the same type of coating or armor on a Super Hornet that you could put on the Ghost. Though, obviously, the hulls are slightly different to allow for 2 seats in the Super Hornet. Even if you want to mount a big size 4 gun on the back of the Super Hornet and use it to give the ship a little bit extra punch, you can do that. Now, even if you take away the interchangeability of components with the rest of the Hornet family, even if you take that away, you take away the size 4 mount that you can put on the back, take that all away, what are you left with? A damn good fighter. I mean, the Super Hornet and the Hornet family largely has always been solid. There's never been a time in Star Citizen where the Hornet has been a garbage fighter. It's never happened. It may not be the fastest, may not be the most maneuverable, but it's always been dependable, and it has always been a solid performer. Now you might say, you know, as a pirate, dude, wow, I would have thought you were totally a Buccaneer guy. And I do like the Buccaneer. The Buccaneer is a solid fighter. I do have some quibbles with it. And, you know, one of the things is we heard about an interdiction system that was hinted at, but we still haven't heard anything else about yet. Hint, hint. But, you know, right now, the Hornet family, like even the Buccaneer, $110. The baseline Hornet, the F7C, $110 as well. And it does have a lot of interchangeability with the rest of the Hornet family. So I kind of got to give the edge to the Hornet right now. Now, so many of the videos I've been doing lately, I've been talking about the the perpetually impending 3.0 release. And I've been talking, you know, the Cutlass, the Freelancer, oh, you can do this with the Caterpillar, you can do that with the Starfare, or just get a Cutlass because you can land on a planet and deploy a ground vehicle, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. But having a core, strong baseline fighter in your hangar is never a bad idea. And the Super Hornet really is, it really is just the omni-useful one. It's, I think, the most well-balanced of all the fighters. I think the most reliable and dependable over time. It may not be as nimble and fast as the Buccaneer, but it can probably take a bit more of a pounding than the Buccaneer can. You know, it may not be as stealthy and as slick as the Saber, but it packs a little bit more firepower, and it gives you a little bit more options. Now, maybe you're a fighter guy in the Star Citizen universe. You know, you hear me talk about the Polaris, the Reclaimer, all these other ships, and you're like, I don't care. I just like the fighters. I just want to be a fighter pilot in Star Citizen. That's it. That's all I've ever wanted. The Super Hornet is absolutely a safe bet. This is like the standard issue, reliable military weapon. I doubt that you're going to find yourself applying to join some mercenary fleet and they're just going to look at you and say, oh, what fighter do you have? Well, I've got a Super Hornet. And they're like, oh, well, you're dog shit. Get rid of him. No, the Super Hornet is never going to be a fighter where there isn't going to be a demand for it, where there isn't going to be a need for it. This thing is always going to end up being the backbone of any really strong and organized fighter force. There's always going to be room for this shit. Now, there are certainly fighters in the Star Citizen universe, like the Saber, the Buccaneer, so on and so forth, that, you know, they're faster, more maneuverable, are stealthy, things like that. But to a certain degree, you can adapt the Hornet to fill some of those roles. But none of those other fighters are as adaptable as the Hornet is. They might have their little niches, but the Hornet can somewhat, to a certain degree, slip into just about all those niches and fulfill those roles to a reasonable degree, and still, at the end, at its very core, give you what is probably one of the strongest fighters in the Star Citizen universe. The Super Hornet, in the end, it's never going to be the most stylish choice or the most slick. But what it is going to be is it's going to be the safe choice. It's going to be a safe bet that wherever you go and whatever you end up doing, there's always going to be a place for the Super Hornet. It's always going to be able to find a seat at the table no matter where you end up. And that is what makes it, in my mind, the standout of the fighters that are available in the anniversary set. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.